So this video right here is going to be all about the pros and the cons of living right here in Spring, Texas. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, thanks so much for your support. Make sure you click the bell so you'll be notified anytime we put out a great video. Leave a comment below. We'd love to get some feedback on what you want to hear so you can know the best things about Spring, Texas. We're going to dive in here and figure out what's the good, the bad, and the ugly about living, working, playing, sleeping, eating, thriving right here in Spring, Texas. We're going to get to it right now. So let's get down to business. Pros and cons of living in Spring, Texas. I've got 5 of each for you. So leading things off, my number 1 pro for living in Spring, Texas is the endless opportunities and different things to do around Spring. I mean, heck, we only live 30 miles from the 4th largest metropolitan city in the entire country. Why not take advantage of all the great things that downtown Houston has to offer? I mean, literally the options are endless. Whether you're into professional sports, world-class dining, shopping, or any other convenience you might think of living near a big city, downtown Houston definitely has it for you. And we're really just a stone's throw down I-45 to get there. But let's talk about the things to do right here locally in Spring. For instance, if you like to get outdoors, the Cypress Creek Trail System is a great place to get out, whether it's on your mountain bike or just on the trails for an afternoon walk. There are literally over 250 miles worth of trails along Cypress Creek that you and the family can get out, take a jog, ride a bike, do some cross-country mountain biking, bring your fishing poles and throw a line in the water. It really is a great place to get outside and enjoy the great outdoors. And if you've got kids, there are endless opportunities for different sports teams, club sports, gymnastics, swimming, tennis, anything you want to get your little one involved with, we've got that here as well. You might want to check out either the Farm League, I-9 Sports, or the local YMCA for more information on those great sports clubs. And I can tell you from personal experience that swimming is a huge thing here in Spring. We've got some of the best swim clubs in all of the state. And the club swim teams are a great option if your kid's really committed because it does go year round. And if you'd like to try more of a seasonal approach, pretty much any neighborhood around here is going to have their swim team that operates in the summer season pretty much from the end of school through about the end of June. And it's a great way for your kids to get acclimated to the sport because although it is competitive, they're still all about fun, and even for the little ones, teaching great technique on just learning how to swim. And when it comes to sports, don't forget about Friday Night Lights with high school football right here in the great state of Texas. And Klein Independent School District with their 5 high schools has some of the best competition and best football around. And just up the road at Klein Memorial Stadium, you can see the lights come on every Thursday and Friday night, where you can get over there and watch these youngsters get after it on the gridiron. Because nothing beats high school football right here in the state of Texas. So Spring is also home to some of the best gymnastics training facilities in the country. You might know Simone Biles. She's from Spring. She lived and trained right here locally. And my youngest one, at 5 years old, is enrolled in a great starter gymnastics course where they kind of cover the basics of tumbling, balance beams, and bars, and she just loves to get out there and have some fun. And if entertainment and live music is more your speed, we're only just a couple of minutes away from the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion. It's an outdoor amphitheater located up in the Woodlands that constantly attracts world-class acts and all types of musicians from around the country. Jimmy Buffett and his Parrot Head Nation always make an annual appearance, and we go up there at least once or twice a year to catch a good concert. The atmosphere is great, it's right alongside the waterway in the Woodlands, and there's loads of restaurants and bars around where you can stop in for a drink or dinner before the show. And you can find more information on their website for live shows coming up and great acts that are going to stop through town in the near future. And speaking of the Woodlands, there are lots of great dining and shopping options up there as well. The Woodlands Mall for one, and then all along the waterway, loads of great restaurants, great places to go out for a nice steak dinner, some tacos, or great margaritas as well. And if you're taking the kids along with you, don't miss the Woodlands Museum. Great place for the kids to go out and have a lot of fun and really learn along the way. So if you really want to slow things down a little bit and take a stroll and check out some great mom and pop shop locations, there are 2 great places you don't want to miss: Downtown Tomball and Old Town Spring. Now, Old Town Spring is really neat because that's where this great community got its roots in the late 1800s as a small farming community. And all up and down the main drag are some really neat eclectic shops you don't want to miss, great little dining options as well, and you don't want to miss Corkscrew Barbecue, which is world famous and you really got to get there early about 11 o'clock because the line starts forming, and once they run out of food, you're out of luck. And downtown Tomball is another great place as well. Twice a year, they host the German Festival, which is an awesome experience and you don't want to miss that. They've got all the kind of different food tents and a carnival for the kids, and don't forget your boot because you want to fill that up with some of the great Oktoberfest beer. And while you're there, check out the new Fire Ant Brewery, or right across the street, Tejas Burgers and Barbecue Joint as well. They also make some incredible homemade chocolate that you don't want to miss. So branching out from Spring just a little bit more, I wanted to share a little bit of information about the Sam Houston National Forest, which is just about an hour car ride north on Interstate 45, but it's got 254 square miles of wilderness to explore. So whether you want to go out and pitch a tent and camp out for the weekend, or just go hit the trail for a day hike, either way, there's loads of great options up there to really get out on the trails and stretch your legs. The scenery up there is really beautiful with the towering pine trees all around, so it's really easy to access and something you don't want to miss. Okay, for the commuter, you might want to get a toll tag from Easy Tag or Texas Tag, because those will be accepted on all the major tollways around the Houston area. The best way to get your toll tag is hop online, HCTRA for Harris County Toll Road Authority. That'll get you your Easy Tag. Otherwise, Google Texas Tag and you can find one there too. So we've really hit a lot of different great activities that you guys can take advantage of here around Spring. So that brings us to our #1 con of living in Spring, Texas, which is all the traffic. With more activities, more things to do brings more people, you're gonna have a little bit more traffic. And quite honestly, the greater Houston area is legendary for its traffic. The good news about Spring being a suburb is we're not quite as heavily densely populated as downtown Houston. So getting around the community really only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to get anywhere you want to go. But if you are a commuter and you're going to work down into town, you definitely want to plan ahead, and you can possibly take advantage of some of the rideshare options or different toll roads that get you down into town a little bit quicker. But I suppose traffic and congestion is just one of the bystanders of all the growth that we're seeing out here in the Spring area. And to me, it's a fair trade because this is a great community to live in and raise a family. You just have to plan ahead. So moving on to my #2 pro for living in Spring, Texas, is the relatively low cost of living and overall affordability that this great community offers. So how does Spring in the greater Houston area measure up to other cities in Texas? Well, the great news is that overall, the Houston area is about 5% cheaper than Dallas and 19% cheaper than Austin. And specifically with regards to home values, the Spring area is going to be more affordable than areas in downtown Houston. In fact, Spring is roughly about 9% cheaper to own a home here in Spring than it is in downtown Houston. So bottom line, your dollar is going to go a lot further around here than it will anywhere else. Even with the hot real estate market conditions we've seen this year, there are still some great options for homeowners here in the Spring area. I mentioned earlier, mortgage interest rates are still historically low, so your dollar really can go a lot further these days. Now it is true that for home buyers, the market has been a lot more competitive as of late due to the reduced inventory we've seen over about the last 12 months. In fact, I've seen numbers where we're currently in a 25-year low for supply in terms of houses for sale on the market. Now, of course, on the flip side of that coin, for as a homeowner, you can get top dollar for your property in today's market. And the other great thing about living in Spring or the Houston area, or really anywhere in the great state of Texas, is that we have no state income tax, which is outstanding when you want to put more money in your back pocket at the end of every year. You can definitely accomplish that here. And what's really interesting to see is how we rank nationally in overall affordability. They usually rate this scale at about 100, being kind of about average for the United States. Well, Spring in the greater Houston area, we typically fall right at about 89, so we're just about 11% lower than the rest of the country. And that makes a big difference when you add up all the different costs, from electric costs, gasoline, groceries, food and dining, which actually food and dining will probably be your biggest expense. And why not? With the great restaurants around here, it's okay to get out there and splurge and treat yourself good to a nice dinner every once in a while. And so talking about utilities, I want to explain a little bit of information about how utilities work here in the Houston area. So the entire state of Texas is one of the only states in the country that has deregulated the electric grid. What does that mean exactly? It means that as a consumer, you can shop different energy rates to come up with the best plan and best provider for your budget and for your family. And there's a really great website you want to check out. It's powertochoose.org. You simply log on there, punch in your zip code, and they'll bring up a whole list of electric providers that you can choose from based off of your usage and your family. And another nice thing is based off the length of time of your contract with that provider, you can reshop that provider every time you want to re-up or look for a new electric provider. But any way you slice it, Spring is a very affordable, very cost-efficient place to live and raise a family. So let's move on to our number 2 con of living in Spring, Texas, which kind of directly relates to our last topic, and that is the increasing property values that we've seen over the last 12 months. Now in reality, the real estate market fluctuates. We all know that. Things move in cycles. And what we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months is the level of inventory or active homes for sale has really shrunk down to about less than 1 month of available inventory. That's the biggest driver to the increased property values we've seen around here. And really as a homeowner, that's really not a bad thing. It's a protection on your greatest investment that you'll make in your entire life. So historically, we've seen home values kind of edge up somewhere around 3 to 4% annually around spring. Well, that's really jumped over the last 18 months where we've seen a sharp increase of anywhere from 15 to 18%, and some areas have been over 20% appreciation year over year. But if I can find a silver lining with all of this stuff, and I've referenced it before, is that mortgage interest rates are still historically low. So even though home values have gone up, the market's a little competitive for buyers these days, your money can still go a long way here in Spring. And just for my own opinion, which may be biased, I'm okay with property values going up because as a homeowner, it's a great protection in my investment. Next up on the list, our third pro for living in Spring, Texas, or the outstanding public school system here around the area. So the interesting thing about Spring in particular is that it has grown a lot over the last years. As a matter of fact, Spring covers 12 different zip codes and 4 school systems. That's right, 4 different public school systems that you could attend by living in Spring. And I'll highlight a couple of those just real quick here. The Klein Independent School District was recently voted the 2021 National District of the Year Award. Now that was handed out because of their innovative improvements in online education, both in curriculum and engagement with students. And I can tell you from experience, both my girls are in the public school systems here and they absolutely love it. The little one at elementary school, as she's walking into school, the teachers are dancing around and playing some music and they're just so enthused and so excited to welcome the kids into school. As a parent, it warms my heart that I know that I can send my kid off to a great place every single day for a quality education. So the other 3 remaining school districts you'll want to know about around Spring would be Tomball Independent School District, Conroe, and Spring ISD. Now there's loads of information online and you can do a ton of research on each one of these school districts, but the great news is that if you're thinking about Spring as a home for your family, your kids are going to be in great shape no matter which school district they end up in. Both Klein ISD and Conroe ISD both added a couple of new high schools in the last couple of years. Klein-Cain High School is the newest and 5th high school in the Klein School District, and Grand Oaks High School is the newest addition for the Conroe School District. Now both of these high schools have been recognized by the state as being one of the most technologically advanced schools in the entire state. And Tomball ISD just is about to wrap up construction of their newest football facility complex out on the Grand Park Parkway or Highway 99, and it looks phenomenal. Again, going back to the Friday Night Lights theme around here, you can tell that our high schools around here love their football teams. It's such a big part of the community. I can't wait to catch a couple of games at that new stadium. And there are also a number of outstanding private school options for you around here as well. Just to name a few, you'll want to check out the Trinity Schools, Northland Christian Academy, John Cooper School up in the Woodlands, as well as Concordia High School over in Tomball. Rest assured that whatever your desire is for your child's education, you cannot go wrong here in Spring. With the various different options we have for public and private schools, your kiddos are going to get a quality education and have access to some of the best sports teams in the state. So sticking with the theme of schools around the area, my number 3 con is going to actually talk about a little bit of the competition that these schools have seen over the last recent years. Again, a lot of this goes back to the explosive growth that we've seen over the last few years, but our public school systems do have very large graduating classes. In fact, we are in the 6A classification when it comes to size and school rating in the state of Texas. So that that does mean that there's a little bit of competition as they get down towards their senior year in high school, when they really need to put in the hard work and time and effort and energy to make sure they're at the top of their classes. But the great news is, with the state of Texas and all the great universities that we have available, is that by graduating in the state of Texas, you automatically have a little bit of an advantage over other folks from out of state that might be pursuing higher education in the state of Texas. And so when it comes to competitions and some of the high school sports teams around here, that's where we've seen an enormous growth in club sports that operate year-round. So any sport and interest that your kiddo may have, it's great to check out some of those year-round club teams that I referred to earlier. That'll give them a little bit of a leg up on the competition and allow them to practice their sport year-round. Moving along to my number 4 pro for living in Spring, Texas is the weather. So some of you folks that are watching this video and researching a little bit about spring in the greater Houston area, you might be relocating from an area where you're looking to get rid of your snow shovel and snow jacket, put on some flip-flops and sunglasses and enjoy some sunshine. We have abundance of sunshine around here, the year round. Matter of fact, I spent last Christmas in my flip-flops, which not a lot of people say that they can do. So if you're looking for warmer climate, this is definitely the place for you. Now, I've pretty much grown up in Texas my entire life, so the heat and the humidity are just a natural byproduct of living in this area. And once you get used to it, it really isn't that bad. I actually look forward to getting outside for a jog, knowing I'm gonna break a sweat, and that's perfectly okay with me. And I promise you, just after a few short weeks, you'll be used to it too. So just to give you a little bit of idea about the actual temperatures around this area, usually in the summertime, we're probably gonna average somewhere around the low 90s. Yes, we're gonna have those days that we get up into the triple digits, but they're few and far between. Once we get into the fall and winter, the temperature will cool off and the humidity will drop a bit as well. But overall, it stays pretty warm the year round, and I like that. So quickly, I'm gonna shift gears into my number 4 con for living in Spring, Texas, which is the weather. Yes, I believe it's possible to have a pro and a con for the weather, and I'll tell you why. Well, there are two sides to every coin, and although we get an abundance of sunshine around here, we get our fair share of rain. In fact, we get the same amount of rain as areas like Seattle, Washington. It just doesn't go sporadically throughout the year. It more comes in buckets, and so when we get these rainstorms that blow in off the coast, it can pour for a couple of days at a time, but then it's out of here and we're back to blue skies and sunshine days. But living near the coast, we do have to worry about hurricanes and hurricane season, which will typically run from the end of May all the way to the end of October. But don't stress out about it, because on average, the Houston area will experience a hurricane or hurricane-like weather about once every 9 years. And there are a number of things you can do to prepare for hurricane season. Always stock up on bottled water, non-perishable food items, and batteries. And the best thing you can do is add a standby generator to your home. So next time the lights go out, all the neighbors will want to come hang out with you because your refrigerator is still working and so is your air conditioning. So if you are online doing your research on a great place to locate your next home here in Spring, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on different flood zones and high-risk flood zone areas. And I tell all of my clients to make sure you get a quote for flood insurance on your property as well. Whether or not you're located in one of these high-risk flood zone areas, flood insurance is just too cheap not to have. And it's always better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. In fact, back in 2017, when Hurricane Harvey came through here and caused some serious damage to some of the properties, over 50% of the property owners here were not located in a high-risk flood zone and therefore did not have flood insurance. I promise you, it's worth the money. And that's definitely something that, as your trusted real estate professional, I can help guide you guys to the best areas and the best flood insurance quotes out there as well. Okay, moving right along. Our number 5 pro for living in Spring, Texas are all the outstanding, family-friendly, great neighborhoods around this great community. And one of my personal favorite things about all the different neighborhoods is that in each neighborhood, you're gonna find tremendous neighborhood amenities that you can have access to as a homeowner. So whether that's a public swimming pool, clubhouse, bike trails, baseball fields, tennis courts, basketball courts, anything you could imagine, all these neighborhoods are all built with the family in mind. So you'll have great neighborhood pools, great place to get outside and enjoy some outdoors. But with that does come homeowners associations. And you want to keep an eye on what those fees are, because at the end of the day, that does go into your cost of home ownership. And really, HOAs can be a great thing because they provide consistency throughout the neighborhood. And a lot of our neighborhoods are walking distance to the elementary schools or intermediate or high schools as well. And I'm sure you'll find a neighborhood that you love. So whether you're looking for new construction, something with a little bit of age to it, hop online to jjhomegroup.com, sort by neighborhoods, and you can go through each neighborhood one by one, and I'm sure you'll find a great neighborhood that'll suit your needs and your family. So whether you're looking for new construction, large lots, homes with a pool, great community amenities, there is sure to be a perfect fit for your family and a great place to build a life. So I'll briefly wrap things up with my number 5 con. And honestly, it's tough to find because I think there are so many great things about living in Spring, but if I had to come up with one more, my number 5 con with living around Spring, and honestly this goes for just about anywhere in Texas, are the mosquitoes. Now these pesky little flies can quickly ruin an outdoor fun time with the kids, but I'll tell you, there's a couple of things you can do to combat these guys and get them out of your way. You can team up with a pest control company and they can come out and blow their mosquito fogger around the front and backyards and clear up the mosquitoes that way. Or better yet, you can purchase a mosquito misting system for your home. Now these things are awesome and it's probably the best investment I've made in my house. And so these pest control companies will come install these for you, and it's a little tube that runs around underneath the eaves of your home and around the back fence. You can bury them underground and bring risers up through your flower beds, but it sprays a completely organic mist twice a day for about 30 seconds, and it's just like waving a big net over your yard that'll get rid of all the mosquitoes around. I kid you not, I walk out into my backyard and I don't see a single mosquito, won't get bit. I can swim in the pool, jump on the trampoline with the kids all day long and not have a problem. So while the mosquitoes might be bad, and it's particularly bad in the spring when the rains really come through here, don't let it drag you down. Fight through it, figure out a way to move on through, because there's just too many great things about living, playing, working, eating, and thriving right here in Spring, Texas, that you can't worry about those little guys. So that about wraps things up for our top 5 pros and cons of living in Spring, Texas. And hey, remember, I've got your back when you're thinking about buying or selling a home in Spring, Texas. Reach out to me, stay tuned for more great content coming your way.